Okay, guys, this afternoon we are going to investigate which temperature of water is best for making tea. Now, when we add tea bags into our water, the tea particles are going to spread out through that water through diffusion. So we're looking at which temperature of water is going to allow the tea particles to diffuse through it the most quickly. So in this investigation, we are going to try 3 different temperatures of water. Now, I have got cold water, which is at 10 degrees C, room temperature water, which is at 25 degrees C, and hot water from the kettle at 80 degrees C. Now, if you want to have a go at doing this yourself at home, you totally can, provided your parents are happy with that or you've got someone to supervise you. It doesn't matter if you don't have a thermometer to measure the temperature of your water. You just want water that's out of your cold tap, sort of warmish water that's not completely from the cold tap, and hot water that's from a boiled kettle. So the thing we are going to change is the temperature of our water. So that this remains a fair test, I've made sure I've used the same volume of water every time. I measured it out with a measuring cylinder before we got started. My beakers are big, so they've got 500 millilitres of water in each. If you were doing this at home, you'd want to make sure you used an appropriate volume for whatever instrument you were doing it in. Okay, so maybe 100 or 150 millilitres. You might be able to measure it out with a measuring jug, for example. Okay, so we're going to make sure that stays the same. We're going to make sure that we keep other things the same, like my beakers are all the same size and shape as each other. So if you're doing this at home, it'd be important that you use the same cup each time, or you use 3 cups that were the same. Don't use ones that are different shapes, because that will have an effect. Okay, now again, if you're doing this at home, you might want to record it every 30 seconds rather than every minute, because if you're using a smaller beaker than mine, the colour might spread out a little bit more quickly. Okay, so we're going to measure the colour of our water. That's our dependent variable. We're going to do it at regular time intervals, so every minute. So that's another control variable. Okay, so I'm going to do this all quite quickly because I've got one stop clock. You'd want to make sure you have your stop clock ready to go. Also going to make sure that I've got my results table here that I'm filling in. I've written down the colour of my water to start with. It's all colourless at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to add my tea bags in. I'm going to give them a quick stir. I'm going to stir them all 3 times so it's the same. And then I'm going to start my stop clock. And every minute for the next 4 or 5 minutes, we're going to write down the colour of this water. Or if you're doing your own version at home, you can make your own measurements. If you're doing it from the video, if you want to, you could pause it every time we get to a minute and look at what the colours are and use that to write them down. Okay, so let's get our tea bags in. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3 stirs. 1, 2, 3 stirs. 1, 2, 3 stirs. Look at that, it's already changed colour over in the hot one. So when the clock gets to 1 minute, you can pause the video and write down the colour. I'm going to give each of the beakers another stir. So if you're doing this at home, you could do that as well. So at 2 minutes, you're going to write down your next observation, and I'm going to give everything one more stir. When the clock reaches 3 minutes, we're going to write down our next observation, and I'm going to give everything one more stir. So at 4 minutes, you're going to write down your last observation. So we're not going to stir them again. This is our last measurement. So you're going to make sure you've written down your colours for each of these last ones. If you carry on onto your task sheet, there are some questions to answer about each of these variables, and overall, which temperature of water do you think would be best for making tea? You've also got some questions about some things you think we might be able to do to improve this method. Okay, so that's something that you can have a think about.